Good day, everybody, and welcome once again to the Tattoo Sisterhood Revolution virtual interview series. I'm your host, Shelly Dax, and our guest speaker today is Annaloux, not only a tattooer, but a painter, illustrator, and mixed media artist. But before we start our talk with Anna, for those of you who are new on the Telesummit today, in this free event, I'm speaking with some wonderful artists and intriguing entrepreneurs about how their careers started, what kinds of obstacles they've faced, and encouraging their best advice for you tattoo novices and tattoo hopefuls. I'm providing a safe space for people of diversity to discuss their experiences. Myself, along with this panel of artists and entrepreneurs, have graciously agreed to collaborate here to share their wisdom and support for those at the beginning of this tattoo journey, which can be like Mr. Toad's wild ride at times. Every morning we'll send you an email with a link to the interviews of the day, so watch out for those. I invite you to listen to each one of these conversations to get the most out of this virtual series. It can be an eye-opener for you. One piece of great advice can literally influence your whole life. That's happened to me so many times. And just a reminder, each morning we'll send you an email with a link to the interviews of the day, so watch out for those and check your junk mail in case something seems to go missing. And with that, let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. I'm super excited to talk to her. Annaloux lives and works in Tucker, Georgia with the nerds at Diligent Lobotomy Tattoo. She loves horror movies, haunted houses, theme parks, cartoons, collecting art, and organizing things in color order. When she was a kid, her aspirations were to be a cartoon, a superhero, and get paid to color with crayons. Now she's living her childhood dream through tattooing. Anna did theater and worked in commercial real estate, property management in her past life. She was an actor, director, designer, costumer, and puppet maker. Her husband and her live with their puppies, Sansa and Efteling. Efteling, I think I said that right. Her tattoo style inspirations come from antique botanical illustrations, pop surrealism, horror movies, medieval marginalia, and vintage kitsch. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you. I'm glad to be with you.
Yeah.
Virtually.
Yes, virtually. So many cool things you have here. And I was very excited to talk to you because, as you know, we talked about this before, we both were involved in theater for years.
Yeah.
And that's something pretty unusual. I don't think I've ever met a tattoo artist who was involved in theater yet.
I know. I think I maybe have once or twice, but most of the ones I know come from either a fine art background or they just went straight into the community.
Right.
From late adolescence, early adulthood.
Well, we'll get to that in just a minute, but first I wanted to talk to you about your beginnings as a tattoo artist, how old you were, where you started out, how you got your information about what it took to get into the industry.
Well, I was working a corporate job and in Chicago, and also at the same time was running a independent theater company with my husband where we did all original work.
Nice.
And I got my first tattoo at age 34. I had always wanted a tattoo, but I just hadn't yet, and finally found the right artist and the right subject matter. And from the moment I started getting the tattoo, I knew that this was something that was connected to me.
Wow.
And for whatever hocus pocus feelings that you get when something like that happens. But so from then on, I thought about, I was like, what is my relationship to this? Definitely I'm going to get more tattoos. And I started, just as I do with most subjects I get interested in, I started at it from an academic approach. I read everything about it. Tattoo history, modern tattooers. I watched a lot of television shows, that aren't always everyone's favorite, but
right.
I just try to look at it from each perspective, and whenever I see anything like that, it's always about sort of that connection of the person getting the tattoo.
Yeah.
And my
So
theater company was.
you watched a lot of the shows just to sort of immerse yourself in a little bit of what that world was like.
Yeah, and it's my favorite kind of TV to have on in the background. Not
Mm-hmm.
just tattoo shows, but like cooking shows and
Mm.
pretty much anything with what I call the high pressure elimination challenge, um, competitive creativity shows.
Got
My
it.
first favorite being Project Runway.
Okay.
So yeah. But yeah, any of those, but then also the other ones where they tell, silly stories and do reenactments, those are great too. But anyway, so I my theater was starting to everyone was kind of growing out of it and I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was in my 30s and everyone else in their late 20s, early 30s were getting married, buying houses,
Mm-hmm.
having children,
Mm-hmm.
going away to grad school and things like that. So it was like, well, are we going to train a whole new group of people, or are we going to find a new place to go? So coincidentally, that was at the same time that I was like, you know what? I can't do my day job anymore. It's killing
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Commercial real estate property management is pretty stressful and kind of soul
Yeah,
sucking.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But so during my day job, and I'm sorry, my old boss, but I'm pretty sure she knew, I did all kinds of work besides just my work.
Mm-hmm.
So, first person I asked if I could apprentice with is a artist, and she's did my first tattoo, and
Mm-hmm.
she's younger than I am, and she hadn't had an apprentice yet, and she was like, I'm just not ready for that yet. So I was like, okay, so
Right.
we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
find this, but I'm not just gonna willy nilly just go ask anyone. But so I did all the like Google searches, like how to find an apprenticeship, and everyone's advice was pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Find artists that you like, visit them, go to their shop, look at their work, talk to them, bring your portfolio.
Portfolio. Uh-huh.
Mine was a mine was a random group of sketches and drawings,
Mm-hmm.
and most of my visual art was in a way self-taught, but came from doing theater art.
Sure.
Um, and so then I said, okay, well, coincidentally, we want to move out of Chicago and go somewhere warmer.
Uh-huh.
So we picked 6 cities that we were interested in, and I made a spreadsheet, and I
Oh
went to
boy.
all the local of those cities, what like the independent magazine or newspaper type things. In Chicago, we have the Reader. In Atlanta, we have Creative Loafing Atlanta. Every city has one of their own,
Right.
but it's just kind of like sometimes they'll have like an awards every year, like the top 7 restaurants that you
Right.
want to
Right.
go to on a date,
We have
etc.
that. Yeah.
So I searched those and looked for the top 10 tattoo shops in each of those cities. Then I went to each of the websites of those tattoo shops and I looked at the artists and their work. And any artists and their work that I thought looked interesting, I added them to my spreadsheet. And my spreadsheet also had what I liked about their work, like just things that maybe if they had bios that was like, maybe this might work, this might not.
Mm-hmm.
So I then had the spreadsheet of probably about 30 artists, and I prioritized them by what I thought was my favorite and or where I thought I wanted to live. And actually, Atlanta wasn't my first choice of where to live, but one of the highest on my list was um, Eddie Arg, or Edward Argabe, and at the time he was at Sacred Heart Tattoo, which
Mm-hmm.
was it's an Atlanta favorite. And so he's one of 5 people I emailed. 2 got back to me, one from San Antonio and one from Orlando, that said, nope, sorry, not interested.
Mm-hmm.
2 others didn't respond at all. And Eddie from Atlanta responded saying, this might work. Let's have a call. Let's have a chat.
Nice. Yeah, and that's a very unusual way to go about this, I'm telling you. I've not heard that story yet. Making a
Yeah, so
spreadsheet and everything, that's woohoo, girl. That's good.
that I have a tendency to order things like this, and I like to make lists, and
That's
I like to
cool.
put things in color order. Yes, this strange type A, I don't know, has since childhood
Sure.
it's been like this.
Well, it's
I
helpful,
used to
obviously.
I used to line up my stuffed animals by size, and then I would look at them, and then I would change to by species. So I'd be like all the bears, and then all the cats, and I don't know. I'm sure there's some neurodiversity in there, but
Oh, that's
that's
funny.
that's a different question for a different day. So yeah, I had a Skype call with Eddie on my lunch break from my office and my commercial real estate office tower with the door closed, and tried to look as cool as possible and not as corporate as I was. And he was in his home office with his puppies and art surrounding him with huge, piercings and tattoos, visual tattoos, and
Sure.
and all of that. And I was doing my best to puppet my corporate dress code at that time, and I said, I need to do this. He asked me 3 questions. He said, do you like cartoons and anime? I said, yep. He said, do you like animals? I said, yes, please. And then he said, what have you already done as far as tattooing wise? I said, absolutely nothing. He was like, all right, well, if you want to move down here, let's do it.
Wow. 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 Wow.
So, well, I mean, we had a couple of conversations, but basically he was opening a shop. It was his first, going on his own business
Yeah.
situation. And he saw that I was committed, and we were born around the same time. He's only just less than a year older than I am. And we got along really well, and then became, like, we're like family now, brother and sister.
Yeah.
So
What year did
four
you
years.
cool.
Yeah.
What year did you move there?
Um, August 2000, or not August. August was the first tattoo. May, Memorial Day weekend, 2016.
Very cool. And your husband was just like, okay, we're going.
Yeah, luckily he's been working from home long before pandemic was ever even a thing,
Oh, yeah.
and his job just requires him to have access to the internet and an office, and they had an office in Atlanta. So
Well, it sounds
um,
like you actually then are having a pretty good experience working for a shop that's owned by a guy.
yeah,
Yeah, well, you're lucky.
I
That's
know,
great. It's good to know that it's starting to change.
I know, and I've always been one of those super headstrong masculine types of females.
Hmm.
As long as I can remember, I never thought about doing something, it being for girls or boys. I never thought about, like what toys I wanted. Mostly, it was just anything that I could create with. So,
Yeah,
like my favorite thing to get was a box of crayons, but I played with cars and dolls, and
sure.
then whatever.
That's
But
great. Well, why do you think
yeah,
people perceive the industry as hard to break into, particularly for women and minorities?
because it is.
Uh-huh.
My stubbornness to accept my gender as a roadblock um made me somewhat blind um to it in all industries.
Hmm.
um Real estate, teaching, theater. um there's these gender roles that are expected to be accepted, and my first year in my apprenticeship, I had another woman tattooer tell me that um, I had to wear makeup and more revealing clothing if I wanted to get good paying clients.
Oof, yeah.
And I'm just not that kind of gal,
Hmm.
like, and
Hmm.
there's nothing against those kinds of gals. They're great. I think they're hot too, but I'm just not like, I can't. If I
Absolutely.
can get out of bed and brush my teeth, we're on to
Good.
something.
That's good. Yeah,
So
actually, one of my other
makeup's
speakers
a
talked
bonus.
yeah, talked about the fact that he's noticed a lot of times when in the industry, women are trying to, build a clientele that they do seem to, it's like expected a little bit more of women to be made up or real pretty or, get their Instagram face on and all this. And he's like, I show up in my sweatpants and,
Yeah.
so that is kind of a bit of a double standard. It's nice to know that someone like you can just be, nope, stubborn. I'm not gonna let that affect me. It's
Yeah.
good because we need more people going into it like that too. For our audience, people who are, this is people who are novices and getting in and interested in getting in, and what could you tell them about what you've noticed about women getting into the industry?
Well, I kind of have more of my own experience, and I don't know a whole lot, but I've heard some pretty horrible stories from a few people that I've known personally,
Mm-hmm.
some young people that because I got in late in my life.
Mm-hmm.
um I think I just was not going to take any bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
lack of a better way to put it. And so it was like, um, this is the path that I'm going to attempt to take, and I'm not going to, you know, I, I did all of that other stuff that these young women are facing, when I was younger, with the worrying about, appearance and perception and public perception, which is it's even stronger now because there wasn't social media when I was, that age.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I did a lot of that already, and basically, it was such a privilege to quit my job where I had to look like something that I didn't recognize myself,
Mm-hmm.
that I could go to work every day and just be me. And it was so precious. And like,
Yeah.
I have blue hair.
Right. That's
And
different. You
it's
can't do
almost
that in the corporate
like
world.
but it's almost like my whole life I pictured the me as just someone who was just like colorful. And I felt drab in a way,
Ah,
like
yeah.
I was living in black and white almost.
Huh.
And besides theater, that was my only creative outlet. But theater is a very, very much about community and not about the self identity
Mm-hmm.
within it. So this self expression isn't necessarily because you're expressing a character, or you're expressing a story, you're expressing a play, you're expressing your community, but not the self so
Mm-hmm.
much.
Right. Yep. Playing a
So
part.
yeah, I the theater didn't make me feel lost, but it definitely the real estate did. And all
Right.
those people that were encouraging to me that I worked with, they were great. That was the only part of it that I did like, and I'm still in contact with several of
Yeah.
my because I was in the industry. I was, in that company for the first company for 11 years, in the industry for 12 and a half years. And
Yeah.
I just they always kind of were like, "Oh, that's Anna. She's just a little artsy."
Nice. Well, speaking of art, then talk about, you do other things. You paint and you do ink and watercolors, and I think you said you sewed too and that kind of thing. Tell
Yeah.
us, how does that influence your tattooing?
Um, I've always been handy and tattooing. And when people started explaining, or when I started reading about tattoo machines and the process of, all that stuff, it went over like a sewing machine really easily for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like a rotary tattoo machine is a
Mm-hmm. It's like a tiny sewing
extremely
machine, right?
extremely primitive sewing machine. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Yeah. That
Yes.
doesn't have a bobbin. Instead, it's just goes straight. It goes in but doesn't come back out the bottom.
Right. Right. I've done a lot of
But
stuff
yeah,
in costumes in the theater and that kind of thing too.
yeah. But I found this coincidental after the fact that the world is filled with people who are terrified of needles, and
Mhm.
I am a person who is fascinated by all different kinds. I've done
Ah.
needle felting. I do knitting, which is a needle. I do hand sewing, hand embroidery and cross stitch, which is with a needle. Quilting, hand quilting with a needle, and then sewing machine has a needle.
Huh.
And crochet, but that's a hook. That's different. But yeah, so I've been um intimately practiced with needles
Yeah.
my whole life, or since I was, probably like 6 or 7 was when my grandma gave me uh those plastic ones that you
Mhm.
do the cross stitch, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like yarn, and you have this plastic needle, and it's really limited, and so then I got over to my stepmom's house and found her grandma's sewing basket, and I just no one was using it, so I just rooted through it and found some needle and thread and just started sewing stuff
Oh,
together.
oh, that's so cool. Well, tell me how you've built your clientele. So you've only been tattooing, what, 5, 6
4
years?
years.
4
4
years.
years. Yes.
How have you built your clientele so far? What are the things you've done to make yourself stand out apart from other people?
Um Really, I find that the number one thing is just that personal connection, and enough can't be said for what my mentor calls good customer service,
Mhm.
which might come from that background in, working in corporate environments
Sure.
and theater. But um, I always want to hear, genuinely, I always want to hear the story that the clients are telling with their
Mhm.
tattoo. And whether it's, they want something on them beautiful to make themselves feel more beautiful, or they want something on them that represents something significant in their life that isn't necessarily um, as artistic as people would say, symbols,
Mhm.
words, the things that people call, bangers. But
Right.
those are those the small tattoos with the big meanings
Mhm.
are more important to me.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's just has to do with, and so just those relationships that just, I didn't know anyone when I moved here. So
Yeah, you started without even knowing anybody, and that's always a
yeah,
little
so
challenging
Eddie,
too.
he sent out a thing on his social. He has like hundreds or thousands, I don't know, so many Facebook. He's a Facebook guy. I'm an Instagram person, but he's a
Mhm.
Facebook guy. He just put on Facebook, he says, got an apprentice, you want a free tattoo? Come on down to the shop.
Mhm.
And so from there, it was just meeting people and talking to people and word of mouth, which was the same with our theater. Really, is like the best audience is
Mhm.
the one that's been told by someone else about their experience.
Right. Yeah. Have you traveled? Have you done conventions or anything like that?
Yeah, so I did a few conventions. My first convention I did was my second year, and that was Space City Tattoo Expo, hosted by Shakeem and Artifacts in Huntsville, Alabama, which is also my favorite convention. It's
Mhm.
around Valentine's every year, and
So you
it's
would
great
recommend.
people, great contests. It's the hosts are great, the
Oh,
clients are great.
that's cool because there are a
Yeah,
lot of conventions that are not so cool. So that's good to
yeah.
know. You would recommend for novices to attend conventions then?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I got the I guess the luxury or the pleasure of going with my mentor. So he was just like, you can kind of see how it is, and
Mhm.
anyone that just walks up, if it's something you can do, we'll just hand it to you. So I did, some comic book symbols and some, some basic simple pieces. I had some flash, and that very first convention I've met 3 people that I now are regular clients of mine from that very first convention.
Yeah, very cool. Is
Yeah.
there anything in the 4 years that you've been tattooing, like what's your biggest shift in your thinking or your shift in your skill?
Um it's it's just time. Like anything The psychologists say that if you want to really do something like lose weight, exercise, get strong, draw, write, paint, tattoo. If there's just anything that you want to do, ride bikes, gardening, do it every day um, until you don't think about it when you're doing it.
Right.
You just do it every day.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's so neat that you're so involved in so many different kinds of things that are creative. It reminds me of the quote that Maya Angelou said, "You can't use up creativity. The more you use it, the more you have."
oh, she's my birthday twin.
Oh, see, she's awesome. But yeah, you just have your, your hands out in every kind of thing going on. That's amazing. I feel like that has actually made me a better tattooer as well. Just trying painting, and I do pebble art, and even I'm a cook too. You were talking about leaving
Oh
the
yeah.
TV on and watching all the shows. I freaking love those shows. So yeah, just every little thing that contributes to being a creative person overall is pretty amazing. What's your typical workday like?
Well, right now it's anything but typical. But before I was at the shop 5 days a week, about 8 hours a day. And when it was slow, we have a back area that we call our art area. It's got
Hmm.
or chill, it's got TVs to play video games, but then we've just got art supplies and we just sit and draw and paint and talk and
Oh, that's
do
great.
whatever and so that was just when there's free time we do that. But when it's busy, we just tattoo. But
Right,
since the
right.
pandemic, um, we were closed for a month. Georgia was the last to close and the first to reopen.
Hmm.
Except for Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Alabama never closed at all. But
Hmm.
I'm not gonna politic about the pandemic.
Okay.
But I do have an autoimmune disease, and so I'm particularly aware
Sure.
at all times. And so I've limited the amount of contact I come into with people. So right now
Sure.
I'm on an appointment only basis,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
and
that's what I'm doing too.
I try to stagger my appointments with the other artists, and we all coordinate with text and a calendar and all
Hmm.
that stuff, so we can um, you know physical distance.
Yeah,
We're not
before
socially distanced because we are texting each other jokes every day,
sure,
but we
sure.
are
Yeah.
physically distanced.
Keeping in touch. So before we started recording, you'd said something about making masks. Is that something you're actually selling too, or putting out there for your clients, or?
Well, so the first day that the shop was closed, and I was in like full blown panic mode. Scared of getting sick. I was scared of eating, and I couldn't sleep, and I've mess.
Sure.
So I said, I got to do something. And so I sat down to like start drawing. And every time I would start to draw, I would just have panic. So just like, just throw the pencil across the room or cry or not cry or, zone out. So I said, I went on a Facebook group of Tucker Needlecrafts and art or needlecrafts and knitting, I think.
Hmm.
And I said, "Hey, does anyone know anyone who's donating masks for because PPA was really really short."
Hmm. PPE,
And
yeah.
that PPE. And one person led me to another um Facebook group that was Atlanta area, has a lot of film and TV. So this one girl who does costuming and sewing and stuff for film and TV, she was out of work, and another person who is a bespoke and she's a little she's a fashion designer. They got together, started a very small little thing that said, "Hey, my cousin's a nurse, and she says that they need some stuff." And March 22nd it started. I joined March 24th. There was already 300 members. And now there's somewhere around 8,000 members that are volunteers and we created a no contact supply chain 501c3 organization that delivers face masks to hospitals, health care facilities, nursing homes, and pretty much anyone who needs it. And as of the end of June, there were 60,000 masks delivered. So it's like quilters,
Wow.
old ladies, like so. But yeah, and I have nothing to do with putting it together. But I was
But
just like, here's
still,
something I can do.
that's pretty
I can do
impressive.
this.
Yeah. Keeps you
I
on
can
track,
I can
keeps you
contribute.
creative
So
and yeah,
I got the
contributing.
fabric out, just started sewing,
Love
and
it.
put them in baggies and dropped them off, and
All right.
just kept doing it. And then the requests started dwindling down, and I didn't want to make money off a pandemic. Like, I was very specific about not doing that, but um, unemployment wasn't coming in yet.
Mm-hmm.
I was running out of my, you know, dwindling on the funds. And so to just keep making masks, I started selling some to just, people. I was
Sure.
like, okay, you can buy my art and I'll send you some masks with it.
Oh yeah, that's neat.
But yeah, so I've sold probably somewhere around like 50, and I've donated somewhere around 250. So I think that's a good, ratio. But I always carry around a little baggie with one in it.
Oh
So like
yeah.
if I go to like the grocery store, it's like anywhere, and like someone doesn't have one,
Mm-hmm.
like the workers, the post office, anyone. I drove past a construction workers, and there was one guy, he didn't have it, and I just held it out the window. I was like, "Here, this is for you." They're like, "Thanks." Like they're like, "Whoa, wow, that's."
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're,
Surprising.
it was just the only way my weird self that needs to isolate from the rest of the world could feel like I was contributing.
Sure. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. So let me ask you just a couple more questions before we start wrapping this up. You had talked about looking at things in the tattoo world through the lens of growth and learning. So what did you mean by that?
Oh, so yeah,
Just
there's
yeah, go
just
ahead.
about how there's sort of a couple of different schools of thought
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to most of the tattoo artists that you meet. And most people want to work with people that are like them. And I've always been a person that's driven by always wanting to learn something. And my mentor says he draws every day, and he's drawn like every day since he was a little kid. And drawing is it's his safe place. And but he's always trying something new.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been tattooing for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of his, friends and people he's worked with over the years that they've been tattooing for 20 years, but they still tattoo the same way that they did 15 years ago.
Uh-huh. So yeah, so it's
And
important to learn new things and to try new
yeah,
styles and you have clients that you can ask like, hey, let me give you a deal because I want to try something new.
yeah. And also I think just accepting that clients come from all different worlds. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of clients, they'll walk into a shop and they'll feel like what it is that they want, like they're being looked down on. I get told this a lot by a lot of
Mm-hmm.
clients, and then I
Yeah.
say, like, no idea that you have for what you want for your personal art. This is your journey. No idea is stupid or weird or dumb or anything. Like, this is for you. I'm just going to help you make it something that's going to be able to last on your body.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good attitude.
Because some stuff, like, they'll be like, I want this. I see this picture. It looks just like this. I'm like, well, there are some things that as tattoo artists we know aren't going to hold up. It's an Instagram photo that was taken immediately after. And
Right.
so I'll be like, all right, well, how can we take that idea that you have that you like and make it still be meaningful for you, but also make it something that
Mm-hmm.
you'll like it 10 years from now the same day as you like it the day you got it.
So what do you wish you had known when you first started this career?
um, that I have to accept the physical limitations of my body,
Mm,
which
mhm.
is horrible. Um,
But it really
beside,
important. It is a
yeah,
very
yeah,
physical job and it is intense. And when you
yeah,
sit for hours, it's painful for
yeah.
sure.
Besides my illness, I never wanted it to get in the way of what I was doing, and I had surgery actually a couple of years ago for my illness, and um, wanted to work immediately after. I went to a convention 3 weeks after my surgery.
Mhm.
I had a total hysterectomy and had most of my girl organs removed.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
um,
That's a big one.
it's a big one, but so yeah, I had to ask for help to like move my stuff around, and it was really really hard for me to do because I'm so headstrong and like I can do it myself.
Yeah,
And
stubborn.
yeah, so it took it like getting back to, I felt like I, had taken steps back, and just accepting those, like accepting when I'm tired, and that when you need to rest, you need to rest. And
Mhm.
um
What would you recommend for like setting up people's stations ergonomically or, what to do that would help, make it that part easier?
yeah, I have a light machine.
Mhm.
uh I always make sure that I have a chair that adjusts to where I can, and then to put to position the tattoo to where it's comfortable for me to reach, but
Mhm.
and then put the client in a comfortable position to where they can keep that body part close to me,
Right.
and then adjust accordingly, and then I keep my ink and my, whatever, as close to me as possible, so the least amount of twisting.
Yes.
Twisting is the bad one
Yes.
for me.
Yes.
Slouching so much doesn't really, I don't know, I kind of have scoliosis anyway, and I'm pretty flexible, but the constant twisting is the repetitive motion
Mhm.
that will sneak up on me.
One of the
But yeah,
things that
like
I
my
had to do for myself was to just set a timer so that I would at least stand up once an hour, just stand up and sit back down, even not even doing anything, and then maybe just shake your hands out and then sit back down. Because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sometimes when you get on like a 5 or 6 hour stretch of tattooing, you're in the zone, right? You get in the zone
Yeah.
and you don't
Yeah.
want to bust out. You don't want to get up. You don't want to go to the restroom. You don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
So I've had to force myself to like get up, stretch a little bit and shake my hands out or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
I don't
Super
do
important.
longer than 4-hour sessions.
Hmm.
And I think that's also more as much for me, but it's also for the client. I feel like if you do too much tattooing, it can tax their immune system,
Hmm.
because their immune system's going to treat it like a wound,
Right.
and it's immediately going to activate inflammation and blood flow, etc. And
Hmm.
so, if they have basically like too much of an injury, it could be shocking to the immune system, and then the tattoo doesn't won't heal as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot with different clients. Certain people are able to sit for a long
Yeah,
time, but
yeah,
I would say the average usually ends up being about
yeah.
3 hours.
I try to talk my clients into a situation of relaxing and breathing, and I tell them always like, think of it like a workout. You're going to be tired at the end.
Uh-huh.
Um and or if it's something that's really small, like it hurts, and you're not going to get that feeling of the woo, that's awesome, until 10 minutes after you've already left, because it's so small, because a lot of people, they're scared, like, oh, I'm scared of needles.
Right.
But
That's funny.
yeah, I think having that communication with the client about what they do with their tattoo and their body um can be detrimental and or, you know helpful to a
Yeah.
tattoo. And most a lot of clients, they already have like plenty of tattoos, they know how their body works,
Hmm.
and that's good too. But then, the
Yeah.
younger or newer, um
Could be older, but maybe
yeah,
a new person to tattooing. Yeah.
I've done that's the other thing that I wanted to make sure I wanted to talk about. The really amazing thing that I've noticed about our shop being like sort of open, unless, I don't know, we don't ever say like, oh yeah, we can't do that.
Hmm.
Would we want to accept all kinds of people, any kind of people. I don't want
Lovely.
to
Yeah.
just tattoo people who have like great skin where my art's going to look awesome on them. Like I want the person to love, because it's not about me, it's about them. And so I've tattooed an 80-year-old man.
Yep.
I've done a first tattoo on a 64-year-old woman who got something that had to do with her time living in Africa as a child. Her parents were missionaries, and
Hmm.
her whole family was like very conservative and Bible Belt, kind of situation. And it was so powerful to her to represent that in some way,
Nice.
that
Yeah.
it's the way that non tattoo community people find it more acceptable when you talk to them like, you know it's like just regular people. It's all
Yeah.
it's all part of
Yeah.
you. So I get people who walk up to me and talk to me about my tattoos, and I don't ever be like, I don't know. I just like, try to be open.
Yeah, that's good. I think for the audience, it's important to know that skin is so, so, so different on every individual person. And it can react differently to the needles. It can react differently to the healing, to the soaps, to all kinds of things. And then on top of that, of course, aged skin is a little bit challenging to tattoo. As you probably noticed, the oldest person I tattooed, I think, was 75. But yeah, the skin can be very, very thin. And but still, the person that I tattooed that was like 75 said, it's fine. Even if it doesn't look right, I don't care. I love getting tattooed, right? So
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to provide that. So let me ask you one more question. No, actually
Okay.
two.
Okay.
So what's one unusual or crazy thing that's happened to you as a tattoo artist?
Um.
Or
Hmm.
any kind of strange story, or even a strange client.
Or like the weirdest. Okay, like one of my favorite stories to tell. Like people always ask, like, "What's the craziest tattoo you've ever done?"
Oh yeah.
And so he came in and did a consult, and he showed me this design that he wanted, and it was very geometric, architectural. It was just lines and shapes,
Hmm.
like a like mid-century modern Frank Lloyd Wright. And I said, "All right, this sounds awesome." So I put together, and he said the specific things that were important. It was going from elbow to hand. The specific things that were important is that he wanted the measurements just right. So everything was done in inch increments. And I said, okay. So I put it together, and then he came in, and we the stencil was a lot harder than the actual tattooing, because it was just, it was lines. And
Hmm.
but the stencil, we had to line everything up right and get everything right. So I was talking to him, and I said, so are you like an architect or interior designer? Are you like because in my mind, like I'm thinking about the art history of the stuff that looks like this stuff.
Yeah.
And he said, no, 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 no. It's a ruler. And I was like, oh, cool. So like, are you like a carpenter? Like, no. And then, no lie, he said, they didn't think I would do it. Me and my partner, we were out at the bar, and we were joking about having always having a dick measuring tool with you.
Oh, okay.
So he has the most beautiful mid-century modern articulate abstract lower arm sleeve tattoo that the ultimate function of it is to measure body parts.
Oh
And I was
my
like,
goodness.
this is amazing. I
That
love
is
this.
hilarious. What a great story.
I love it. I
Okay, well
love
then,
that.
so I'm just gonna say, is there
Totally
any,
weird.
yeah, that is totally weird. Anything that I should ask you that I didn't ask you up to this point? Anything you want to share?
Um,
Anything that you think the audience would want to know?
well, since the again, you talking about how this advice is for novices, or the audience particularly will be probably more other
Newbies. Yeah.
people in the community as opposed to general audience. Um, my mentor, he said, Draw every day. That's important. Be open to the way you draw, and you will start to see tattoos in your drawings, and or you will start to see drawings in your tattoos.
Oh, funny.
If
Nice
that
way of
makes
putting it.
sense.
Yeah.
Like the way that you experience light and dark, or sometimes when you're painting you usually go light to dark, but when you're tattooing you go dark to light so you don't cross contaminate your colors. And so just being open to learning all of that stuff will just ultimately at the end of the day, like, no piece is less important in your artistic journey. Because if a well laid line is well laid, it's beautiful if you do it with a pencil, tattoo machine, a stick in the sand.
Nice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, stick in the sand.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. I love it, Anna. And for those who want to follow you or see your art, you actually have a little gift to give them today too. What's that?
I'm going to have a tattoo flash, a flash available for the participants in this experiment.
Awesome. And go ahead and say what flash is, because some people, if they're really, really new, they may not know.
Okay, so for tattoo artists, the old idea of flash, the history of flash is it's just a drawing that is taken from something and it sits on a wall and the person comes in and they look at it and they say, I want that. So you think Sailor Jerry, or you think 90s barbed wire, or you think today we just, we do all different kinds of things. So it's basically like clip art. So I'll draw it and I'll put it out there, and if you're a tattoo artist and you want to use it and someone wants it, you're free to use it and or change it or whatever. So it's like it's even if I drew it originally, it's not really mine, it's yours.
Right. So you're offering some original. So
or it's a piece, or it's usually like a poster size piece of paper with a certain, or digital with a certain number of images that are commonly tattooed.
Got it. Right. And so will you offer outlines and a colored version? Or just the colored version?
Both. Yeah,
awesome.
Both. Sometimes my flash is just sort of outlines with like a sort of suggestion of how it's shaded and colored. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, and when you're starting out as a tattooer, it's nice to have a lot of things to draw from as well. I mean, to use, when you're getting started with your clients. And so that's really great. I appreciate you offering that. And I am so thankful that you were here today. Thank you, Anna. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for finding me. I don't know how you found me, but thanks. I feel
I've got my ways.
Honored to be part of it. You said for novices, and I'm like, I still feel like a novice. But
yes.
My mentor keeps telling me, he's like, no, you just keep growing and growing. And I was like, well, it's just because I don't want to do anything else. I love it. Well, I do other things, but I just really love doing this. So
yes, I love tattooing as well. It's pretty amazing. A pretty great career. Okay. Thank you so much, Anna.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All righty. Bye.
Take care.
To our listeners, your next interview will be delivered to your inbox. And don't forget, you have access for a full 7 days after each interview is released to listen. I look forward to joining you in our next session. Until then, be feisty, stay kind, and get creative.